Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. Today I'm once again playing my beloved Green-Black Turbodepths. This is pretty much my signature deck and you've seen it many times before on the channel, but for those of you who are new, let's get into it. So this is a deck that wins exclusively off of making a Marit Lage off our Dark Depths. So we have this, it has 10 ice counters. If we remove all the ice counters, we get a 20/20. Now we could pay 30 mana to do that, or we could cheat and remove all the counters just with Hexmage, or we can make a copy of it that has no counters and then get a 20/20 that way. So that's how we're winning the game. We've got 8 tutors to make that happen. We've got 8 pieces of fast mana to power this out. We've got a bunch of hand disruption to take problematic things like a counter spell to stop one of our tutors or a source to plowshares or whatever that can target our Marit Lage. So that's what these are for. And then we've got other bits of protection. So protecting from removal is not of this world. And then Pithing Needle can stop Wasteland, Karakas, Ghost Quarter, Maze of Ith, that sort of jazz, and we can make sure that we secure our hit with our big 20/20 and win the game. Mana base wise, we have a fetch land mana base here, so we've got a couple of Bayous, and then we have one of each basic, so that we can cast this Abrupt Decay from our sideboard underneath the Blood Moon more easily. We've got a few silver bullets like the Ghost Quarter, Bojuka Bog, and Sejiri Steppe for various times when we might need that. The Urborgs help us power out the early Hexmage, and the Yavimaya is like a 5th version of Urborg that can help us do the 3 land, Dark Depths, stage, and land combo. And we've got a couple of Boseiju that we can tutor for using our Sylvan Scrying if we need to blow up some problem permanents. That's pretty much the deck. Sideboard wise, we've got tools to hate on the artifact decks that can go underneath us, like Storm and the One Ring decks. We've got some Leyline of the Void because graveyard decks are very prevalent right now, and those are some of the decks that can go underneath us, so we want to be able to stop any sort of reanimate shenanigans, get those Archon of Cruelties into the void rather than into play. We've got a little bit more hate for things our opponents might have. So Duress is good against combo decks, but it is also good for getting like Edict effects out because we can't protect against Edicts with Not of This World. If our opponent's got targeted removal like Brazen Borrower or Source to Plowshares, we can have some Not of This World. And that's pretty much the deck. If you'd like a really detailed look at this deck, I have lots of content towards this on my Patreon, which is in the description below, including a regular guide that I update every month, including a breakdown of the current meta, where Turbodepths sits within the meta, and it also not only discusses the Green-Black Turbodepths build, but also the Rainbow Depths. So check that out if you're interested, but like and subscribe, and let's start 2020ing people right in the face. If you're looking to play Legacy on MTGO like me, why not try Card Hoarder? They're a rental service that I personally use, and I found them better than other rental services that I've used in the past, so why not give them a try? Alright, so we're opening a hand here. We can turn 1 Thoughtseize, turn 2 Sylvan Scrying, turn 3 Dark Depths. And that will be good enough. So I think this is fine. It's not really where, like, it's not the ideal, you know, we're not going off on turn 1 or 2, but we've got some interaction. We've got a line that takes us to winning the game. Just lean into it. Okay, potentially white mana. That's not really what we want to see here. So we will be playing out the Urborg because we're going to need this in order for our Thoughtseize to work and also have just a 3 land combo. Okay, does that change anything here? Possibly. Alright, so let's Urborg. I will play out... Actually, no, we're not going to play out the Lotus Petal. If our opponent wants to daze here, we can pay using a Spirit Guide. Okay, Leyline Binding, Triumph of St. Catherine, Orcish Bowmasters. So one of these cards answers what we're doing. We don't care about the other cards. Let's get rid of this, and then this can tap for black mana, so we're more inclined to just Sylvan Scrying with these while we know the coast is clear. So we know this isn't getting counterspelled, so now we have an uncounterable 20/20 in a couple of turns, and our opponent's hand doesn't really interact with that. Alright, so they got a Ponder on top. Let's see what they're going to do with this Ponder. They chose not to shuffle. That doesn't fill me with a great amount of joy. That could be a source to plowshares in our near future. Inquisition of Kozilek is not a bad one to have here. So what we can do is we can Inquisition of Kozilek next turn. So we're more likely to hit the thing that's going to be messing us up. So that's what we're going to do. Flooded Strand from our opponent. So we still know a bunch of the cards in our opponent's hand. Alright, we're in Beanstalk territory now. Sure. So now is our turn to do our thing. Alright, that's an excellent draw. So we can play out this Lotus Petal. We can Inquisition of Kozilek our opponent. See what they're working with. A Leyline binding that we have the answer to. Do we think our opponent's got sorcery speed answers? I don't believe so. So we just need them to not have a Force of Will here. Unfortunately, they will get to draw the Beanstalk before we do our thing. Do I want this Ponder to resolve or not? Before or after we try and go for our 2020? I think we just let this Ponder resolve. The more stuff our opponent commits, the better. But this potentially draws them into a Force of Will for our Not of This World, which would be a problem for us. I chose not to shuffle there. That might have just been because they found the land, though. Alright, let's make the friend. If we make that in response, then they will just Leyline binding at the end of turn anyway. Alright, so there's the Beanstalk. There's the binding. Here's a trigger. Here's the Not of This World. Did you find the Force? I said GG. Alright, so we want a Duress and we want this Not of This World. So these sorts of tools are going to be useful. Our opponent hasn't shown us Wastelands, and they've shown us that they're running Leylines as well as the Orcish Bowmaster, so they're going to be properly 4 or 5 colours. So I reckon we're going to take out this Bojuka Bog, and then we're going to trim on Pithing Needles here. Because they probably don't have Wastelands, but we might be able to play around if they do. I think we do want some fast mana because we want to try and get there before our opponent can sculpt a hand. This is an awkward matchup. Basically, if there's lots of this in your meta, I would not suggest playing Turbodepths, to be perfectly honest. It is a little bit sketchy where stuff happens. Okay, I will keep this one. So, yeah, there's a lot of things that our opponent could do. It's not as bad as straight up Bant control because they have more life gain in the form of Uro, which is better than Triumph of St. Catherine for the most part. Alright, what is our strategy here? If we play out this Verdant Catacombs, we could Pithing Needle here, or we could hold up this crop rotation. We could kind of do both with this Lotus Petal. We don't know if our opponent's running Wasteland or not, but I think we still put Pithing Needle on Wasteland. Just gets us a Bayou. Let's cast this. Now they might crack the Flooded Strand in response. Yeah. I think we are still naming Wasteland here. I don't know if our opponent runs it. Sometimes they do, but we just don't really have the choice of better options. Like we could name Teferi is the other thing we could do. Thespian Stage. So we could try and play out this Vampire Hexmage and see what happens. I think that's fine. We'll play out the Dark Depths. So we have a potential 2020. An Orcish Bowmasters here is going to be slightly annoying for us. Alright, they didn't have the Bowmasters because that would force us to make the Dark Depths at a time not necessarily of our choosing. Alright, so we're not going to just make it end of turn into all our opponent's white removal. What we're going to do instead is deploy this Thespian Stage and start cracking for 2 here. Now, our opponent's got a lot of options here. We can potentially crop rotation, but we haven't tried to find any Force of Wills out from our opponent or anything. If our opponent taps low for something, we can make our 2020. Our opponent can have hard cast Force of Will soon, which obviously isn't ideal for us. What do we want here? Let's play this Verdant Catacombs. Let's attack with our Hexmage. If we play this Spirit Guide out, we can't hold up the crop rotation, so we're just not going to do that. They would like to try and Swords to Plowshares are... So we'll make some response. Our opponent probably has another removal spell, but maybe our crop rotation is enough to get through this. Up the Beanstalk, sure. Now we're going to see a Leyline binding, I imagine. Alright, let's see if we can get this. If they got the Force of Will here, then they can Force of Will this and draw another card. Yep. Thought that might happen. So we're going to get our creature bound underneath this Leyline. And then we're going to be looking for our combo again. We've got a Verdant Catacombs here. Are we just playing out our little friend? I think it's probably worth doing here. So we'll get a Bayou. And then we'll get a Swamp, because that helps us cast the Vampire Hexmage more easily. Alright, so we have a 2-2. 6-turn clock, easy. Our opponent does have their draw engine up and running. We've churned through a Force and a Plow and a Binding and another Force. So maybe we can get somewhere. Do I want to play Vampire Hexmage as a threat? I think the answer to that is yes. Our opponent probably only has spot removal here, rather than sweepers, and we definitely want to get some pressure on the board. They could high cast a Force and cantrip here. It's pretty reasonable. It just means they're not under any pressure at all and can kind of just do their thing. They could just put a Plow on top of their library. That's certainly a thing they're allowed to do. We don't need this Hexmage to make our Merit Lage, so... Alright, they got a Force of Will to then draw that Source Splash. As you can see, this is not the best for us. Could play out that Thespian stage, actually, rather than holding it. Alright, what are we going to see here? Lorien revealed, drawing 4 because of the Beanstalk. Yep. Going to get pretty hard for us to come back here. But again, we're not a deck that cares about the total number of cards our opponent has. We're a deck that cares about specific cards our opponent has. So, you know, there's still a way that we can win this game. It's very, very marginal and unlikely to happen, but until our opponent puts our death on the stack, we are still in it. I wouldn't mind seeing some more. Okay, our opponent wants to Surgical our Dark Depths. Alright, we'll say no to that one. And then we just go back in again. We didn't see anything that made me want to... like, we didn't see any Wasteland type stuff. But I think we can still keep them in. Maybe snipe out an early fetch land after getting some information off of Duress or something. It's probably reasonable. Like the other, we don't have other cards. Like we could board in like Collector Ouphe just to attack with, but that doesn't seem great. This doesn't have any access to a Dark Depths. This one does have access to a Dark Depths. Okay. I can live with this one. So we can Inquisition, turn to Crop Rotate for Dark Depths, make Hexmage, make it, and then Not of This World. So this seems pretty strong. I think we probably... Yeah, we definitely get rid of this Inquisition. Yeah. Not a Thoughtseize, though. Ponder, Triumph. Okay, we'll take one of their Ponders. That's what we're allowed to do here. So our opponent's going to Island Ponder. They could Tundra Ponder, they might as well. I know we're not about that sort of life. Okay, let's see if they keep or shuffle us away. We're looking for a shuffle here, please. Although we can beat a Plow. They chose not to shuffle. Interesting. Like, this matchup doesn't get better for us, so we are just going to... Oh, wow, we don't even have to send it like that. Excellent, okay. Let's go for the thing. Do they find a Force, or is it the Plow they have? Because we can beat a Plow. We can beat a Plow. Right, so there's the Misty. They've got 4 cards that we know about and 2 that we don't. Right, we do the thing and hope the Not of This World is good. If we go to our turn, we also have Crop Rotation up for Sejiri Steppe. I'm going to try and kill it in our upkeep. Let's try and Not of This World. They find a Force as well as the Plow off of the 2 draws we didn't know. They did not. Ugh, this is pretty gross. It does work. Alright. So we gain 20 life. I don't think we're doing Thoughtseize into our opponent's thing. We don't have any Surveil lands to go and fetch with our Verdant Catacombs, which would be kind of useful in this situation, but I think the downside of having come into play tapped land, it's not where I want to be. Okay, so we're not a million miles away. I don't think we're about crop rotating just yet. But if we have another land... Alright, our opponent is get rid of some of their cards out of their hands so we don't have as much information to work with. They don't have an engine here. So we don't have enough to go yet. So I think we're just going to wait a little bit longer before we can try it again. But obviously this does get worse for us every time that goes by. There is an argument there to Thoughtseize and take out our opponent's Lorien Revealed. But I don't know how long it's going to be until we get to try and combo. So it's better to have this Thoughtseize ready at the time so we can punch a hole in whatever they have at the time rather than trying to stop them drawing more cards. I can understand people wanting to just do the Lorien Revealed there out of their hand. Because if they play a land here and draw 3, that's going to be a pretty good spot for them. Alright, they're just cycling it. Okay, that's worked out relatively well for us. Right, Tundra, they're going to play the Tundra. So they're going to be hard casting a Triumph of St. Catherine next turn, which might be something we want to Thoughtseize out of their hand this turn. It's definitely an option. So they've got a Wasteland, so we're correct that they have Wastelands. They've got another Lorien Revealed, which is going to be very hard for us to beat. A Plough, which is going to be hard for us to beat. I think we have to take the Triumph to buy us more time to try and draw the exact amount of things we need to win this game. But this matchup is pretty awkward. There is the Wasteland. I don't believe they're just going to fire this off. Right, so here's the Lorien Revealed. Yep, they have truly gassed back up. Yikes. A Vampire Hexmage. Our opponent has a Swords to Plowshares in hand. Interesting. We do need to get through this Wasteland. How do we go about doing that? If we play out the Hexmage, we have 2 crop rotations available. But we need 1 for the Sejiri Steppe to beat this Swords to Plowshares. We need 1 to get our thing. So we are still 1 card shy of being able to stop this. If we had another crop rotation, we could go and get the Ghost Quarter and then force the action on the Wasteland and do it in response to whatever they do with the Wasteland. But again, this all becomes moot depending on what our opponent's got in hand. If they've got a little bit more action, you know, like a Force of Will, then we're just absolutely cooked. I do not believe we can win this one. Right, Bayou. What does that do for us? It gives us the ability to combo with Thespian Stage at some point. I think I'm going to put this Hexmage into play. I don't believe that this game is winnable, to be honest. But if we can get all our pieces into play and then maybe have more mana to play with next turn, we can do something. Maybe they'll get a bit angsty and like fire off a Swords to Plowshares like prematurely and we can do something. But we're trying to put our opponent under a little bit of pressure and then also have our opponent make a mistake or us to draw like ridiculously hot. But our opponent is the one who is sculpting every single draw here, whereas we're the one who is living off the top. Okay, black-green. This looks like a Beanstalk to me. It could be a Witherbloom command. Should be pretty reasonable here. I doubt it is. I doubt they have much black outside of Orcish Bowmasters. This looks quite similar. Oh, they're going for this now. That is interesting. I will crack this in response. This is kind of what we've been waiting for, weirdly. Let's try and crop rotate this away. Our opponent does have Force of Will, hard cast mana over there. A Force of Negation. Okay. So they're sat there with this Plough, so we know that our Marit is not going to survive. Maybe they do have a Witherbloom command, and they want to do that first and then rebuy it. They've already played their Wasteland though, so that's kind of interesting. I'm not sure if they actually want the black mana or not. Okay, yeah, so they do have this Witherbloom command. So we could make a Marit right now, but we are dead to this Swords to Plowshares. We can't fizzle their spell because it has 2 targets. So I think we're just letting this one go, as sad as that is. And they're going to return this Wasteland to their hand. Yep. An old 5-colour Wasteland deck. An awkward situation. Again, we are still not able to do what we need to do here. There's the Wasteland. There's just so many layers of stuff we have to get through. Yep, and now they're going to draw up to 6 cards. So we're probably facing down Plough, Wasteland at this point. So not feeling special about this one. Alright, I think we are on Elvish Spirit Guide Beatdown. I don't believe this is going to do anything or be remotely good enough. But it's what we have. A second Wasteland, you say. So we're going to need to find those Pithing Needles. They didn't show us these Wastelands at all, or the Witherbloom command in the first 2 games, so that's kind of a little bit annoying. Like, we did keep in a couple of Pithing Needles to hedge in case they had them, but normally if they do have them, it's usually 1 or 2. So they can't really afford to play that many in their sort of 5-colour mana base. They probably have 4 Theorlingus as their only red spell, and like Pyroblast out of the sideboard, perhaps. Okay. This doesn't do it. We've got a lot of life to work with because we've gained 20 life. So if we can find a Pithing Needle We maybe get to do something here. Out the beanstalk. Now, our opponent does just have the most amount of resources. Well, I'm going to have so many cards here. I think we can probably call it a day. I don't think we're going to get through this. Now, I could have asked our opponent and just say, oh, have you got more than one removal spell, and then scoop at that point, because that's going to be too much for us to overcome. But, yeah. You can see why this matchup is horrible. It's not as bad as, like, full-on Bant control, where they have Teferis and Uros and all sorts. But, yeah, this matchup's horrible. They've got 8 removal spells that just clean answers to our creature. They've got Wastelands in here. They've got counter spells. It's just a nightmare. Alright, it's not how I want to start a league off, but let's keep going on to round 2. We are on the play for round 2. And another fan on the channel. So, what does our hand do here? It does combo on turn 3 with a little bit of protection, but we're a little bit cold to Wasteland and stuff. I think we can do better than this. This is not better. This is also not better. Yikes. Alright, maybe we should have kept the very weak to Wasteland hand that we had. So what are we looking at here? We have to keep 4 of these cards. It's probably just these things that lets us actually do our thing and just hope that our thing is good enough. But this mulligan is somewhat cruel on us. We want to fire off a Sylvan Scrying before we do a crop rotation, but we might need to crop rotate away some graveyard or whatever. Okay. We don't know what part we're going to need to find off the Scrying, but we need to find something. Alright, this is actually a good draw for us. It means we have an emergency crop rotation if we require it. Alright, let's go for this. We're going to get the Dark Depths because we have effectively 12 copies of Dark Depths. We have 16 copies of things that combo with Dark Depths. So it's in the blind like this, when you're trying to sort of be mana efficient and stuff, you tend to want to do that. Okay, so you've seen a Brainstorm and a Force of Will. So our opponent is not playing like Rhinos, like the Cascade Rhino deck, which is good because that's a horrible matchup. But they might be on some kind of control build. They could be on Rug Food Chain. They watch the channel, they know how I feel about that deck. I don't think I'm going to play out this Lotus Petal. I'm just going to sit back and go nowhere. Right, would a Foothill's being cracked? Yeah, I've got a feeling our opponent's on Food Chain. I said they're a fan of the channel. I play a lot of Food Chain on here. Uro, that's part of the whole Food Chain package. They could be on like Rug Dreadnought. That's a deck that people like to play. 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't want to get like a Bojuka Bog here. You can take out the Uro, but then what are we doing with the rest of our time? This makes it very easy for our opponent to put Uro into play next turn. They need to put another card into the graveyard. So we can make a decision with our Bojuka Bog in the face of a potential Uro. Imperial Recruiter. Yeah, so they are on the Food Chain. Okay. Yeah. I read their deck pretty well, but it's not going to help us here. We need to find either of our combo pieces, really. So we've got 12 draws here, plus other tutors. So it's probably like 12 plus 6 is 18. All right, we found it. Okay. Now, our opponent can kill us this turn. So we have the ability to win the game, provided our opponent doesn't, and doesn't interact with us. All right. That's kind of an annoying one, because that means they're probably bringing back the Euro this turn, and that's why they're lightning bolting. Or they just want to go through less clicks. Yeah, we're going to get this Euro. Alright, in response, we'll get a Dark Depths. We're doing this in response, so they're less likely to have a counterspell. Do I want to keep black mana, or we're going to use our Lotus Petals for that? We'll use our Lotus Petals for that. We want to keep the Yavimaya going. So our opponent's unlikely to have any removal spells that answer what we're doing. So we're going to do this now, all in response to the Uro. So we're going to keep the Thespian stage, make it 2020. Our opponent gets a 6/6, but they do gain 3 life, which puts them to 22, which is more than 20, which is obviously annoying for us because we deal damage in increments of 20. So this is a 2-turn clock. But our opponent gets to play things like Ice Fang that can block us and just jams up for a bit. A Sylvan Scrying, that can certainly help next turn. Bash for 20. Do you want to just fire the Sylvan Scrying off now for next turn? I think so. Our opponent's gone to 1 here. Alright, let's get this Sejiri Steppe. This means that if they have the Ice Fang, we can attack through it. Alright, I'm not enjoying that lightning bolt to our face. How many more of those do they have? So they could have the Ether Channeler. That's a thing that comes in and out of some of these food chain builds. But we're going to get hit for 7. That's half our life total. So we're unlikely to die to burn spells right now. But if they have the food chain combo, they can just, you know, string it together and kill us here. And I won't make our opponent click through it, because I appreciate when people don't make me click through it. Seeking of the Beast. A Ponder and a Wooded Foothills. So they're probably going to cast this Ponder. So they're looking for some kind of bounce spell. They could have a Brazen Borrower. They chose to Shuffle. So that's good for us. Alright. Yeah, so we would play this on blue to get round flash threats. Okay. So that was a mull to 4. I think we can safely say that was pretty exciting. We know our opponent's deck is going to have Makers of the Moon. I don't normally play much to deal with specifically Marit Lage, so I don't think we're going to want these Not of This World for this one. Bojuka Bog is not something we want to tutor for, so I'm not interested in that. What does our Pithing Needle hit? Walking Ballista. It'll actually shut down a combo, but I think we're probably better off having a couple of Duresses. But we'll still leave in the 2 Pithing Needles, but we need to make sure that we're not getting hit by counter magic, so that we can actually force through our tutors. But yeah, a mull to 4, and we got there, so do enjoy what our deck can do. So this hand doesn't have any plan to win the game, so we will mulligan this. This hand is Thoughtseize, Sylvan Scrying, and we're still not quite there. We need a little bit more mana. Is this the right... Is this right for us? We have a Boseiju, which is pretty good against their combo. This is a tough shout. We just need to find another piece of black mana. I'm going to try this one out. It's kind of on the marginal side of things. We have to decide what we're throwing back here, though. That's a little bit trickier. I think we want to keep the Hexmage. Obviously, we want to keep our Black Source and our Tutor, because that's how we're going to try and win the game. Do you want this Boseiju, or would we rather just have a couple of bits of hand disruption? I think we just want a couple of bits of hand disruption. If we had a 7, then I'd be very happy for that Boseiju, just as like a, okay, they put Squee on the stack, we blow up the food chain, they don't get to get us that way. Our opponent's deck has Makers of the Moon in, so we're going to get a basic swamp here. And then we can play off of basics, which is another reason I like this hand. I think we Thoughtseize first. Alright, Brainstorm, they're going to be hiding some of the goodies. What are you going to hide from me, opponent? I guess we won't find out for a couple of turns. So, Force of Will. Alright, we will take a Force of Will. So, they could have something like Food Chain Recruiter. That's pretty reasonable. Doesn't quite get them there, but it's not a million miles away from getting them there. So, they do have a Force of Will, so we don't just want to cast this Scrying into it straight up. So, this is an annoying turn, where if we'd have got a Bayou, we'd have been in a better spot. So... So we want to duress our opponent. So does it matter what land we play? Is the question. I think we'll get this Urborg. We'll duress away. No. We kind of want to take this force. Right, Questing Druid. That's a pretty good one. They can seek them beasties. Now we could have tried to bait out the force with the Vampire Hexmage. That's a perfectly reasonable option there as well, but if they don't take the bait, then that's not necessarily ideal for us. Alright, what are they exiled here? Zoanthrope, so that's one of their win conditions that won't be available for when they're trying to combo. So it would be slightly harder for them to just 100 to 0 us. But, or 20 to 0 to be precise. So they've got another, so this is the Questing Druid that's in exile, right? They play the land, they've just got the Zoanthrope here. And they play this Trop. I don't fancy playing out this Uro, which is interesting. Thespian's Stage. Well, our plan here is relatively set. Let's get the thing. Right, so here's this other Questing Druid. What do they find this time? Magus of the Moon. We don't have an answer for the Magus just yet. They also got the Squee, which is fine. You can leave it in exile and they can play it whenever. That's always a nice hit to find because it doesn't really matter if it goes into exile then. I do love Squee. But what is our plan here. We've got 4 Abrupt Decays in our deck. So if they play the Magus, that's going to shut them off of a lot of their colours here. So I don't know if they want to do that. No, okay, they do want to do that. We're playing this game, are we? So this means we get to play our Dark Depths. And as soon as we find an Abrupt Decay, we just get to win the game. Do I want to play this first striking Hexmage? Our opponent has a Squee that they can just block with every turn. So that doesn't really get us anywhere. And that will cost us our Lotus Petal. I don't think that's worth it. I think we're just going to pass here. If we need to, we can play it in a few turns to block. But our Hexmage isn't going to be killing their Magus of the Moon anyway. Okay. Imperial Recruit is pretty good as well. Another red card. A Zoanthrope. Oh, they got a second Zoanthrope. That's interesting. Because the other one is an exile over here. Alright. So we're taking a little bash for 2 from the Magus. That's not an issue. We can take a little bit of damage before we have to worry about placing this Hexmage down. A Pithing Needle. Like, that's not going to stop anything our opponent's got going on there, really, is it? Right, we'll play out this Thespian stage. Am I into this Hexmage? I think so. I think we can just stave off a bit of damage and buy ourselves some time now. If they find a blue source, they can Zoanthrope and ping down our Hexmage. Another Imperial Recruiter. Okay. They're running pretty hot over there with drawing red spells. Okay, so the Ice Fang. So these could just be blue cards for Force of Will. But the way they let our Hexmage resolve, I'm not sure if they are. Sejiri Steppe. We can use that to get through the Ice Fang on the turn we actually try and combo. I don't believe we want to play any things. We can play this on Walking Ballista. This might be one of the things our opponent has cut from the deck. But I really like Walking Ballista because it beats the One Ring. Whereas Zoanthrope doesn't, because they have protection on the turn you're casting it. Whereas you can just pull the counters on the Ballista and then pass the turn. We could just be seeing a never-ending stream of recruiters. That's another option they had, just to keep recruiting for recruiters. But at some point we can draw an Abrupt Decay and maybe put this game to bed. Alternatively, that might not happen, and we're just going to sit here for a bit. So they can jam with Recruiter, Squee, Recruiter, and force through 2 to 3 damage, depending on how things go. Alright. Yeah. So the play for us here is to block the Imperial Recruiter, because this one doesn't come back. So we take 2, so we take 3 this turn, we take 2 next turn, and then we stop taking damage. And that ends up being the better calculation in the long term there. I don't really want to play another Urborg, so we're passing the turn. I did board in these Abrupt Decays. I'm not losing my mind, am I? No, we did board them in. Alright, so we're a quarter of the way through our deck, so we're kind of due to find one, statistically speaking, anytime soon. And our opponent's deck isn't going to be able to interfere with an Abrupt Decay. Alright, so they're coming in for the 3 this time. So Walking Ballista is something they can play underneath their own Blood Moon effect as well, which is another reason why it's important to needle it. Alright, so now they can't attack unless they want to expose their Magus of the Moon. A Sylvan Scrying. We don't have any lands that actually kill our opponent's Magus, do we? We could get a Boseiju to try and beat a potential... we can beat a potential food chain if we Sylvan Scrying here. Alright, so we get this Boseiju. So we need them to not kill us this turn. And then we can just hold up Boseiju, because they can obviously make all the manas of all the colours with the Squee into a food chain if they find their basic forest. So this plays around them doing that. And then again, at some point we'll draw Abrupt Decay, and that'll be good enough to win the game, most likely. Alright, another fetch land. Our opponent might just sacrifice their Magus of the Moon by attacking it into us at some point. This is not that point. Okay. Abrupt Decay, please? No. Our opponent's got a lot of cards over there. I think it's time we had a look. Probably just a bunch of creatures. Alright, so they do have a Force of Will here. So they've got Collector Ouphe, they've got Ice Fang. Okay, we're not too bothered about those things. We just pass. We're settling in for a bit of a weird one. But we're playing a deck I love against a deck I also love, so I'm having a wonderful time. At some point we'll draw the Abrupt Decay. I don't believe our opponents kept Furies in this matchup, if they have them in the main deck, because they're just not very good against what we're doing. Another Dark Depths. Okay, that's actually something we want to see, because if our first one doesn't work, we can have a second one. Okay, we're just waiting to draw that card. Right, our opponent's played a land. I imagine they're not doing anything else this turn. Back over to us, and we are drawing a Crop Rotation. Another card that doesn't actually do anything here. Understood. Another land from our opponent. And it's back over to us. A land, we'll play it. It's just a mountain for now. But we're over a third of the way through our deck now. So we're overdue an Abrupt Decay, statistically speaking. They would like to Lightning Bolt our Vampire Hexmage. This is actually a pretty good play, because this is going to give us a clock that we're working against now. We could draw a Lotus Petal to put another Hexmage into play. But it's all just whether or not we can draw the one thing we're trying to draw. Another Sylvan Scrying. Are we casting this in order to thin our deck and make it more likely to find the Abrupt Decay? I think so. None of these are useful, as you can probably imagine. So we have Thespian Stage and Dark Depths already. I don't think we're going to need to go through multiple iterations of that. We just take the other Boseiju. We can just start firing those off if we have to soon. We don't want to do it now because our opponent will get a basic, but, you know, it's just another layer of protection against what our opponent can have. But they've got us on a 2-turn clock here. Now is the time to draw what we need. Come on, deck. We're casting it. It doesn't save us the game, though, does it? There's a problem here. But maybe our opponent will be a little bit cagey and not attack into it, even though they have lethal if they attack with both creatures. We'll see how they want to play this one. I have faith that our opponent is just going to kill us this turn. And so they shall. Yeah, we just couldn't find the Abrupt Decay. Yeah, we basically had to go through more than half of our deck to find the decay. Yikes. When I played the food chain recently against a Depths deck, I had a really bad time. So I think the Depths deck is probably having the better deal of it. So we could play something like Collector Ouphe over the Pithing Needle, but Collector Ouphe stops our own things, which are going to be really important underneath the Blood Moon, and this is just to stop Walking Ballista, which this does anyway. So I think we're just going to go right back in. Alright, so we're on the play for this last one. This one doesn't get there, even though I do like the decay. We're going to mulligan. They only have one Magus of the Moon, so it's not really the center of their game plan. This doesn't get us there either, so we're going to have to mulligan again. This is not a matchup where you can just rely on them playing a Magus of the Moon and then us killing it, because it's a thing that's in their deck. It's not like their plan in this matchup or anything. Alright. This hand does not get us where we need to be. I think we're going to go to 4 again. We've got a Duress. We're basically, if we keep this hand, what we're keeping a land. We probably have to keep the Hexmage, the Bayou, and the Petal at this point. And that seems pretty bad. I don't really want to go to 3, but maybe I'm supposed to. Sure. Yuck. This is real bad, but we're only 1 card away. Go on then. Okay, so we keep the Dark Depths, the Lotus Petal, and the Elvish Spirit Guide. So this gives us the opportunity to draw a Thespian Stage. We're not going to play out anything here, I don't think. Maybe that's wrong, and maybe we just want to play the Dark Depths because we know our opponent's very unlikely to have any Wastelands because they're playing a list that is very close to one I played recently. But we'll see. Like, we might need to use a Magus of the Moon as an enabler. Like, if they stick a Magus, we can play a Dark Depths, and then we've got green-black mana in our hand to Abrupt Decay. So that's why I'm a bit cagey on playing out this Dark Depths. Right, they did not shuffle from that Ponder. A Thoughtseeze. I don't think we're about that life. An Ice Fang. Sure, I can live with that. A Yavimaya. That's not unhelpful. We can deploy a land. Again, we need this Lotus Petal for Abrupt Decay mana if that's something that's going to be a part of this game. So maybe they go get basic and then play a Magus. That would be something. A food chain. We might just be dead right now. So I got this. There we go. So I got Squee. Sure. Got another Recruiter. We got 4 mana there. What is that in aid of? Alright, our opponents told us they've got the thing in hand. I'm not going to force them to click through it. Alright, a bit of a loss there. Mainly we lost because in game 2 we just couldn't find one of our 4 Abrupt Decays in half our deck. And sometimes that's going to happen. That's part of the fun of Magic. But I think we're generally pretty favoured here. Like, we won the mull to 4. We didn't win the mull to 3. And the other one, we just needed to find 1 card. And we just couldn't quite get there, even though we had lots of time. Alright, let's go to round 3. Alright, we're not doing a very good job of turning our fortunes around with an opening hand like this. So let's mulligan it. What about now? No green mana. Alright, we're having a bit of a tough time today. Okay. This plays. So we've got a Dark Depths. We've got a Thespian Stage. Hexmage. I guess we get rid of this Thoughtseize. And then we have to get rid of either a Pithing Needle. Is it the Pithing Needle or is it the... Because the Sylvan Scrying gets us the Urborg using the Spirit Guide. I think we just have to get rid of the Scrying here. And any land gives us what we need, and we can just play out the Pithing Needle here, and that's fine. That is a Misty Rainforest from our opponent. Hoping to not see a Tundra. A Ponder, okay. So, any land is good here. A piece of fast mana even better. We can just say, can you beat what we're doing? They chose not to shuffle that Ponder. I did say any land is good, and I meant it. Let's play this Sejiri Steppe and pass. This gives us the mana we need to Dark Depths next turn. Which might come as a surprise because we'll still be a little bit mana shy from where our opponent sits. The surprise Spirit Guide factor. It's going to be a Beanstalk, I reckon. Yeah, okay, so this might be another Bant Beanstalk matchup. So we're going to get pummeled pretty hard. Don't know where all these Bant Beanstalk decks are coming from. They were kind of gone out of the meta pretty much the last few weeks. They're having a bit of a resurgence. Alright, hopefully our opponent will tap out and allow us to make this Dark Depths using our surprise Spirit Guide. Or maybe they'll only have 1 interaction spell and we can get rid of that with Not of This World. Alright, they're cycling a Lorien Revealed. That's basically a mana neutral play as long as you're playing that land, so makes sense. So our opponent has potential double plow up. I don't think we're beating double plow. So let's just see if our Not of This World is good enough. Now we mulliganed a bit low here, so we've got to take the lumps when we can get them. Swords to Plowshares. Let's say no to this one. Like this, the Bant matchup is so rare, generally speaking, at the moment because like the Beanstalk matchup, because it just gets crushed by the Bug Beanstalk to the point that that's why we're only running 3 Not of This World. Obviously, you know, people still playing it. It still does powerful things. You know, it's just unfortunate we've come across 2 in 1 league, really. All right, opponent, what do you fancy doing here? Okay, we're going to see another Beanstalk, maybe? Nope, a Narset. Okay, that's not a thing that really matters to what we're doing, but it can find them more horrible things for us to deal with. A minor misstep. Okay, so we're not going to resolve a crop rotation over there. Understood. A Lotus Petal. So we are 1 black mana source away from this. They could minor misstep this if they want to, but I imagine they're holding this up for crop rotation. So we are 1 black mana source away from at least trying to attempt another combo. Alright. They found another Beanstalk. I imagine they're going to slam that one right down. Especially if they're sitting there with a Force of Will, which they probably have at this point. They've gone through over a quarter of the deck. Alright, so getting an Uro down first. What is this Uro going to find? Is it going to give them an additional land drop? It is not. Okay, so you're telling me they've got 7 bits of gas in hand. Yikes. And they're on 22. I don't think we're winning this game. I would like to duress our opponent's hand to get some information, and then I'm going to just scoop this one up because this matchup is horrible, and we've sort of passed our window here. Our opponent's too set up for us to win. They're just going to stop us getting information here, aren't they? I feel it in my bones. Yeah, there's a misstep. Sure. Okay. Enough of that one. Let's just go into the sideboard. Right. I would like this other Not of This World. I like these Duresses. How much do we think they're going to be on the Wastelands? We kind of got a little bit messed up by them before. Let's cut a couple of bits of fast mana, I suppose. And try like this. We'll keep the ones that produce black because that helps us do Vampire Hexmage things. And we just keep these Pithing Needles just so we can dodge potentially Teferi, potentially Karakas, potentially Wasteland. There's a section of things that can get us. Okay. This one is pretty well protected. We can have a little snipe at their hand. And we can try and resolve this Sylvan Scrying. And then we just got 2 Not of This Worlds to have a good time with. Ponder, Prismatic Ending. They have the Wasteland. Okay. I guess we take the Plow here. And hope they Ponder rather than Wasteland us. Like, they're likely to save their Wasteland for when we do the thing. Or they're just going to go straight for it now. Okay, they're going to go straight for it now. Understood. So that stops our Vampire Hexmage line. Alright, a crop rotation. We're relatively likely to resolve. But we don't really... a crop rotation here. We don't really want to play a crop rotation because we've only got the 1 land and that doesn't help us out. So we kind of need to get another land and try scrying out first. Tundra. Now we're going to see the Ponder. Like, our hand is the sort of hand that can win this matchup. We need to draw a land. If we could draw an Urborg, that would be the best. But we have already drawn one, so the odds are against us. Oh dear, oh dear. Okay. Let's Sylvan Scrying. We'll go and get ourselves... has to be the Dark Depths here, doesn't it? I think. We'll play this out. We can crop rotate in some sort of weird emergency. But we are relatively open to Sejiri Extraction beating us. Can we see this trop this turn or not? We are. Okay. A Ponder from our opponent. So we can try and win the game next turn. If our opponent has a counter spell, that goes very poorly for us. So we have to decide what we're up to, because we would need to crop rotate into the Urborg here. Now, if we draw just any old land, then that's pretty reasonable as a thing that we can try and rotate away with. But when we're on this low resources, we have to be pretty careful with our lands. Okay, a Lotus Petal, you say. Like, I can't say I'm a big fan of what I'm about to do. This matchup doesn't get better, so we got to go in. Oh, wow, we are in. Incredible. Okay. So, Wasteland is going to be a problem for us here. But they have the Prismatic Ending. We could try and beat that with our 2 Not of This World, or we could just try and dodge a Wasteland here. No Wasteland. Okay, so I think we might have this one. Because they don't get to use their sorcery speed removal. They might just be putting an Endurance into play, and then trying to clean us up with the sorcery speed removal. That's reasonable. Right, so Sejiri Steppe is good here. A Duress. Alright, I will Duress our opponent. Prismatic Ending, Force of Will. Well, we've got 2 of these answered, as long as they don't find a blue card, right? And they're going to be drawing random cards, because they're going to have to shuffle off of this to get a green source. Okay. We need to dodge for 1 turn. But our opponent is obviously a deck that has quite a lot of blue cards in. So here comes a chump block. Our opponent's got 4 cards in hand. Right, here is the first answer. They only have 1 white source right now. Force of Will, Pitching, Lorien Revealed. So we know what their hand is. So this should win us the game because they don't have a second white source. If they'd got Savannah here, they'd have been alright. Alright. We managed to get a game there. Tough fought, but we managed it. So, yeah, I think we're just going back in again. That was the sort of hand where we had a lot of extra protection and disruption. On the draw, it gets a little trickier. We obviously start off with slightly more resources, which doesn't hurt for our deck that likes to mulligan a lot. But our opponent gets an additional setup turn of digging to try and find stuff before our combo hits the deck table. So this hand is good against Wasteland and is good against our things, but we would need to find our combo. It's going to be slow if we keep this one. I think this matchup's so bad. I'm going to keep this hand with all the protection. I don't normally advise keeping hands that don't have direct routes to Marit Lage, but our deck is designed to try and find Marit Lage. So we have 12 cards that just do that, exactly that. So what is our strategy here? I think it's probably Yavimaya into Pithing Needle here. Now, the Pithing Needle isn't the best against them deck because they have prismatic endings. Alright, it's cycling Leyline Revealed. We could have named Leyline Revealed for the Stone Cold Reed there, but we decided against it. Alright, Tropical Island, that was the one they fetched off of the Leyline Revealed. And our opponent is pondering. They chose not to shuffle. Okay. Can we find our combo pieces? Not that combo piece though. Opponent doesn't have a basic. I don't really want to play this Petal out into a prismatic ending, but if our opponent does have a prismatic ending, do I care if they hit the Petal or not? I'd rather hit the Petal than the Pithing Needle. This gives us the ability to turn our Thespian stage into another land if our opponent plays like a basic or something. A Savannah. Trifecta of banned lands. An array. Alright, so we need 2 hits to win the game now. This is another example of why this matchup's horrible, because you have to hit them twice, you turn all their sorcery speed removal, yada yada yada. If they have to ferry, it gets even worse, because we basically don't get any protection spells. Right, we'll play this one out, and we'll crack it now. Get that sweet F6 value, just gets Bayou. And do I want our Thespian stage to become a Bayou? I guess we do that on our opponent's turn. Just gives us an easier black-black if that's a thing we really need. Obviously we have the Lotus Petal and this other Bayou in hand, so it's not that relevant, but it's better to be a Bayou than it is to be just a forest, right? It's not a basic forest. And that would be better, but... We could have played our basic forest and turned it into that, I suppose, but... We're trying to play around things that are quite far down the line. Whereas we might actually want to be able to dress our opponent and other bits and pieces. Living Wish. I don't see that every day. What is this going to go and get them? I bet it's going to be something that I'm not going to enjoy very much. So they can get a creature or a land. So this could be like a wasteland. And that would make me pretty sad. Haywire Might. Okay, so this can blow up the Pithing Needle. Not in love with that as a thing that we have to deal with. An Elvish Spirit Guide. Alright, so this is the turn we play this. And we turn it into this. And we get our sweet F6 value. This game is a pretty good example of why I don't keep a hand that can't access Dark Depths. Like I said, there's 16 cards that go with Dark Depths, but only 12 cards that are Dark Depths if you include tutors. So it's kind of on us to make sure that we have the Dark Depths. A Boseiju. It's not the one, is it? Alright. Like, we could play as Elvish Spirit Guide, but I don't think we're incentivized to do that just yet. And Endurance. Okay. So we probably want to play the Spirit Guide next turn. We can't take our opponent off of white mana with our Boseiju. Alright, we're going to take a Crash for 4 here. They're cycling a Leyline Revealed. Get ourselves a Tundra. I guess our Thespian stage becomes a forest. Just keep ourselves insulated a little bit from Wasteland. Okay, I guess we'll play this Swamp out, and we're going to cast Feel the Wrath of My Mighty 3-mana 2/2. Right, so we're going to lose our Pithing Needle here. This again gains them 2 life. It doesn't matter because they're already on 2 turn hit, but it means they're very unlikely to fetch below the amount of life they're on. So we can choose to block this Endurance, or we can try and get a few little chip shots in with our Elvish Spirit Guide. And if we can do that, then our 2020 might be able to do it in 1 hit. So I'd like to try and get those chip shots in. God, this feels terrible. Right, our opponent was going to play something and decided they didn't need to. Understood. Okay. Now we're cooking with gas. Alright, let's get a chip shot in with this guy. Now they might have another Endurance. And that's obviously annoying for us, but what are we supposed to do, right? Sure. Goodbye, my friend. You were not a card that did anything, unfortunately. So we have to dodge sorcery speed removal anyway. I think we're going to try and kill one of these Endurances in combat. I think that's a reasonable thing to try here. If they play a Wasteland, that's going to be a bit annoying. Right, they didn't. Coming in? They are. Alright, we'll target this. Tap this and this. We'll keep this one. We have 2 layers of protection. Try and gobble one of these up. Say no to Swords to Plowshares. Say no to Swords to Plowshares. They've got a force as well. Okay. We're going to gain some life. And we only need to find a Dark Depths now. So that's not the end of the world. We've already got half of our combo sat in play. I'm going to see a Beanstalk here. Okay. They should have played that first. Because if they had to use the force in combat, then they could have at least got some value off it. I think you want to get the Beanstalk down. Alright. An Urborg. I guess we'll play this Urborg. Don't want to kill their Beanstalk. It gives them a land, but they already have lots of land. Yes, I think we're just going to say no to Beanstalks. They do get a land with basic types, which is basically all of the lands in their deck, apart from fetch lands. And then we're into F6 town. Right, they've got an Uro. That's obviously a big advancement on the clock. So we're going to take 6 going to 19, and then we're going to be taking 6. So that's a 4-turn clock. Living Wish. What new horrors beyond our comprehension are we about to find? Ah, Solitude. That's pretty horrible for us. Yeah. So this is like a full Bant control, and this is even worse for us than the Beanstalk deck. Because they're always going to have white mana for the most part. They've just got more sort of removal. This isn't going to do anything. Yeah, I think I'm done with this one. Yeah, that's a rough one, that one. That matchup is bad. We didn't see the Teferi though, which really pushes it over the edge, because that means we don't get to protect our creature at any point, and they get to do instant speed prismatic endings. But we are 0-3. We are having a bad time. Let's see if we can turn it around and get a few wins on the board. Well, we have a hand with 2 pieces of protection. We just need to find another black source. I believe we're going to keep this. We're on the draw, so we've got 2 draw steps to find land, which is like our most abundant thing in our deck. We've got fast mana as well. It also does the job. Being able to Thoughtseize is going to be really crucial here too. Get some things out of the way. Our opponent's kept on 6. What are they up to? A Chrome Mox. Alright. Are they a combo Chrome Mox? Are they a Prison-y Chrome Mox? A Thoughtseize under a Chrome Mox. So that says Mono Black Saga Storm. To me. Could be wrong. We'll see. Oh, okay. Don't mind if I do. Right, let's Thoughtseize our opponent. They're on 4 cards. Let's take the thing. They can't Veil of Summer off of this mana. Wowzers. Okay, they're just scooping it up. So we've seen Thoughtseize imprinted into a Chrome Mox. Like, that's either going to be some kind of, like, Stompy deck, or it's going to be, like, a Saga Storm deck. The fact they didn't play a land makes me want to just board for Saga Storm. I think that's what we're going to do here. We don't want these Not of These Worlds. We can always change it up if we change our mind. We don't need Pithing Needles here. We don't need the Bojuka Bog. We can jam a couple of Leylines in. Now, we do kind of want these Lotus Petals because they help us ramp out our things that stop our opponent from killing us really early on. So it's a case of, do we want any more Leylines to stop their like super duper combo town or not? How important is Ghost Quarter? It can hit an Azure Saga, if that's the thing we're worried about. Would I like 2 Leylines or would I like 3 Leylines? I think 2 is fine. Like, they're not necessarily a graveyard deck, it's just a thing they can do with their deck. But our other hate pieces are pretty strong. If we get a better feel for our opponent's deck, then we can obviously change things up. Like if we start seeing echoes flying around and stuff, then we can jam in a couple more Leylines. But if we'll be on the play for the final game, we'll be able to be more likely to stick one of our hate pieces on turn 1 with fast mana. And our opponent doesn't necessarily get a turn first. It's a big deal. Okay, Thoughtseize into Collector Ouphe, and we have the combo. Why is it whenever I play a matchup where I board in Collector Ouphe, I always draw really bananas hands? Like, we can still lose if our opponent turn 1s us, but this hand is pretty solid. Our opponent's probably not a fan of seeing us click the keep button there. Now, we're a deck that generally mulligans a lot, and whenever you keep a 7, it's normally a pretty bananas hand. Have I misread this and our opponent is actually a Reanimator deck? Maybe that is the case. Like, we have our combo in our hand, and it's Thoughtseize proof. We do have a Thoughtseizes and Duress that we can use to target our opponent as well. Chromox, Thoughtseize, Underground Sea, Bloodstained Mire. Maybe this is Reanimator with, and the Underground Sea is just like the show and tell plan, so it's more like the old school black-red Reanimator, and they've just got a Chromox, because that is a bit of fast mana that you would occasionally see in some of the Reanimator decks. Not that often though, but it's a possibility. I guess we're going to have a look at our opponent's hand soon and find out. Yuck. Okay. Maybe they just also have the Underground Sea to cast Echo of Eons. Our opponent seemed unhappy about that, and I do not blame them. Another one, sure. Let's see what our opponent's working with. Beseech the Mirror, Burning Wish. Interesting. The Burning Wish is kind of annoying, for sure. What is the play here? I think it might be the Burning Wish that goes. It's either that or the Brainstorm. That's a tough shout. Let me take the Brainstorm. We don't want them to move around cards that much. We want to keep an eye on what they've got available. Right, they can Burning Wish for an answer to Ouphe, but we do have a second Ouphe. Now, they might be able to play around the Ouphe, but if their mana is tied up in fast mana from artifacts, then the Beseech the Mirror becomes more difficult. But if they're more like Ad Nauseam Tendrils, and they've got a lot of Dark Ritual, Cabal Ritual type stuff, then our Collector Ouphe won't be as powerful as we would necessarily like. Okay, this speeds us up a turn. So let's go and get another Bayou. Deploy our little friend here. And then next turn we can Hexmage Depths. And then our opponent is in a bit of a bind because they might have to Burning Wish for some kind of like Chain of Vapor type thing. Not Chain of Vapor though. Void Snare? Is that the one? There's a sorcery speed Chain of Vapor basically. 1 mana bounce permanent sorcery. But I can't remember what it's called. It's Void something, I'm pretty sure. But that is what they could go and get to deal with our Ouphe or our Marit Lage. But if they have to deal with the Marit Lage rather than the Ouphe, then that's going to leave all their mana locked up. So again, it's going to be down to what's their distribution of rituals versus artifacts. Like, you wanted a high density of artifacts for Beseech the Mirror. So, who knows? The things our opponent's shown us are all cards in the Epic Storm. So that could be what our opponent is on, which is more artifact-centric than some other builds. Alright, the Tiger kind of confirms that to me, I think. Burning Wish. Let's see what they get. Because like Ad Nauseam Tendrils tends to be like Bug. Alright, so this is return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. Target opponent discards 2 cards. Alright. That's an instant. An Inquisition of Kozilek. We could just fire that off. And deploy our... No, we can't deploy our threat as well. We could deploy another Ouphe and Inquisition our opponent. That slows us down a turn. Can we take this with an Inquisition? I don't believe we can, right? Because it's got a higher CMC. But we can take out some of their mana that they're going to use to get up to Beseech. And we just play Boring Horn Beatdown. Alright, so there is the Dark Ritual. That's one of the things I want to take out. Play another one of these guys. Attack for 2. We're on 2-2 Beatdown. Obviously next turn we can be on 20-20 Beatdown. For the sake of my sanity, we do need to get a win on the board. Alright. Let's go attacks. So, if our opponent draws... They need to draw 2 things here, right? I think we just put the win on the board. Like, I don't even know if we're going to fire this off right now. Because we know they've got this Consigned to Oblivion, but if they start casting spells, then we can kind of get them. We're going to see a Surveil land here, I believe. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, this does strike me as a full-on Epic Storm deck list. Oh no, they put a card on top of their library. That's never good news for us. But I do need to keep the mana open if they want to Consign to Oblivion or whatever the ability is called. But we just don't have to do anything if our opponent doesn't go for it. Because we can just attack for 6. And that's fine. Perhaps we're going to attacks. Go try and get rid of our Hexmage, then we turn it into a Dark Depths. We need now to decide what we're getting with our Sylvan Scrying. We can either get a Bojuka Bog to shut down some of the guys' will lines, or we can get a Boseiju and hit one of the lands. Oh, they had an Echoing Truth. That's pretty good. Interesting. Am I just playing more of these out? Or do I want to just try and take them off of black mana? They probably do have another black mana source. Is that better than putting a Collector Ouphe into play, though? I don't think it is. This does give them more green mana. I'm not sure if that's going to be useful for them or not, though. I also bought them another turn damage-wise. Misty Rainforest. So still can't beseech the mirror. We do not play an Urborg if we draw one, that's for sure. We do not want to give our opponent easy beseech. So we have perfect information on our opponent's hand. So they could Burning Wish for something. So they could take the card out of our hand if they get another mana at some point, but I think they're just going to save this to bounce. What do we want here? Another Thoughtseize would be good. We've got a lot of hand disruption. We've got, what, 7, 8, 9 pieces in our deck? We have drawn 3, though. So that is a third, and we're not a third of the way through our deck. So we're not liable to draw another one. But, you know, there's quite a lot in there still. Right. Over to us. So we swing, put our opponent to 1. Shuts his Misty Rainforest off. And then we're probably Sylvan Scrying for a... I think it's the Boseiju. We're just going to try and take our opponent off mana. Right, so we're going to consign to Oblivion one of our Collector Ouphes, probably. Because this means their fetch land can go and fetch them a black source. Alright, they want to do this, do they? I'm okay with doing this. Like, if they want to go and get a Burning Wish to answer it, then I don't really care because we've kind of got other stuff going on anyway. So, are we taking out our opponent's black source to stop them ever getting Beseech Mirror, or are we trying to just gut their graveyard? Did we take out our Bojuka Bog? We did take out our Bojuka Bog, right? Okay, that makes the decision very easy. So if we don't think our opponent's got... so we know they don't have any instants to cast here. So in their upkeep, we're going to take out their thing, because they might have a come into play tap land Surveils. So I guess we do it in their draw step. But then if they have a Brainstorm, we can get punished quite badly there. Right, so I think we do this now and hit this. Oh, we only need to pay 1 for that because we have the Merit Lage. Whoops. Overpaid slightly, that's fine. I don't know how many black sources they're going to have in their deck. Because the new builds, because they're running Surveil lands, they might only have a black Surveil land here. Alright, there's the other Bayou. But that's one less thing that the Misty Rainforest can fetch. Alright, our opponent's off it. And we've put a win on the board. Thanks for that. That was very much needed. Let's see if we can rally into a 2-3. Like, we've been losing 1-2. It's not like we're getting smashed. Even though we've had some really tough matchups. Alright, let's go to the final round and see if we can get the 2-3. This opener on the draw, I think is probably worth a go. It's a little bit clunky. But if we can find another land, we can start doing these things. We've got extra mana, so we can play around some stuff. I'm going to keep this one. Maybe I've just been shell-shocked into all these horrible mulligans today. But we've got 3 points of interaction, and we do have our combo in our hand. If we just find a bit more mana, then we can just win the game with what's in our hand and a little bit of mana. An Urza's Saga. What flavour of Urza's Saga are we looking at here? And a Lotus Petal. Are we Saga Storm or are we the Epic Storm? Not the Epic Storm. What are we talking about? 8 cast. Okay, so I think we are going to Thoughtseize our opponent first and see what they're working with. And then we can make the executive decision here if we need to. Okay, so they've got a Grindstone over there. They've got a Force of Will. They've got these annoying things over here too. Let me take the Force of Will. Do I want to Pithing Needle their Grindstone or their Urza's Saga? If we do that, it costs us our Elvish Spirit Guide. If we don't draw a land, then we're kind of sunk. I think we have to pass, and we're likely to Pithing Needle the Grindstone, I think. So our Mono Blue Painter. I haven't seen this for a hot minute, but it's pretty cool. Right, there's Ancient Tomb. They're just going to make some constructs, and that's fine. So we can Sylvan Scrying for a land and play it this turn. If we don't draw a land. Okay, so we drew a land anyway, so that's excellent. So we can get this. If we cast a Sylvan Scrying right now, we get the Dark Depths. So if we try and play Pithing Needle now, that's going to delay us a turn, but we do lose to Painter's Servant if we don't do this. But I think That's a price I'm willing to pay. Yep, you can make a meaty friend. It's going to be what, 4/4, probably 5/5 this turn. No, 6/6 because the seat of the sun. Okay, this is good. I'd rather make a token than make a thing. So probably they might have a Pithing Needle here, which could be a little bit awkward for us actually. Yeah, they do have a Pithing Needle. Okay, that is a little bit awkward. I know the 8-cast decks tend not to run main deck Pithing Needle at the moment. So maybe we're going to get a bit punished here. Alright, our opponent has deployed their hand. They're going to bash us for a chunk. And we are going to lose, I think. Unless we can draw a Vampire Hexmage right now. Should be great. Let's have some of that. If they've got a Metallic Rebuke, we're just dead anyway. Go, Gadget. Vampire Hexmage. Not a Vampire Hexmage. What is our solution to what our opponent's got going on? I think our solution is to tap this and have a Pithing Needle. We can name thing we're gonna die. Nah, we're just gonna be done. Alright. Another matchup where the Collector Ouphes and Null Rods are gonna be good though. So sign me right up. I think I like Abrupt Decays in this matchup a little bit though. My opponent might be doing some tricksy stuff with Snaring Bridges and such. So Pithing Needle is actively good for us here. I think this matchup is a little bit slower, so we can maybe take out our mana that doesn't work under the Null Rod effects. I think that's pretty reasonable. Do we need a Bojuka Bog here? Not really. Let me take that out. Yes, it has some text, but it's not really what we're about. So the Abrupt Decay can take out Pithing Needles and Ensnaring Bridges. If they're a painted deck, they're way more likely to have Ensnaring Bridge than you would see out of a regular 8-cast deck. We've got some useful tools here. We will need to find part of our combo. We already have the Dark Depth. I'm going to keep this because we've got 2 pieces of hate that are pretty effective here. Well, we've got 3 pieces really. I think it's going to be a relatively interactive matchup that we need to be playing. Let's have a little Inquisition before they get to explode their hand on turn 1. So we get to take a Lotus Petal or we get to take a Painter. I will take a Painter, please. So their hand is not that good, to be honest. So we can Pithing Needle that as a Saga and their hand doesn't really do anything. It obviously fetches them a Grindstone for Painted Servant, but we have the Boseiju to cover that for later anyway. So we can just stop them making constructs and then we should be alright. And, you know, some point soon we might draw our combo and that'd be nice. We have to make a decision next turn about which land we play. So are we looking to draw a Thespian stage or are we looking to draw a Hexmage? Because depending on which one we draw depends on which land would have been better, and we might not know which one until we get there. A crop rotation, that kind of gives us a free roll of any of them. So this means we play out the Yavimaya here, and then we'll play out this Pithing Needle and we'll name Urza's Saga. We already have the Boseiju ready to go for their Pithing Needle that they get off the Saga, and we can just make a 20/20 and give our opponent a good bash to the face with it. Not being able to make constructs from their Saga means they're unlikely to get these Thoughtcasts out of their hand anytime soon. Emery. Okay, that's pretty good. That allows them to recast this Painted Servant. And they've got a Pithing Needle too. Okay. That's pretty good. Wouldn't mind an Abrupt Decay here, to be perfectly honest. Well, you miss every shot you don't call, right? Let's get rid of this. Green. Black. No more Emery Lurker of the Lock. And do we just play this one out? Maybe we just play this one out. Opponent's got 4 cards in hand. We'll crack this and so we don't get Pithing Needle randomly. They're not, the Pithing Needle's in their graveyard actually, right? Yeah. Okay, so that's even better for us. They might have the second Pithing Needle they brought in. You never know. Alright, you can get some mana from your Urza's Saga. And you can get a 1 or 0 drop from your Urza's Saga. A Haywire Might. Okay, this allows them to answer the Pithing Needle. But by the time they start churning out Urza's Saga tokens, it's going to be too late for them to matter. Either Spellbomb's already in the bin, we're just trying to dodge from like an Emery, really. A Thought cast from our opponent. We got 3 cards in hand. Is now the time where we cast our crop rotation? I think it is. Alright, we're just in here. Let's go get a Thespian stage. Now you can draw 2 cards. So they might have things like Thought Monitor, which can block for a turn. Although Boseiju can clean that up, if that's what we're interested in. Yeah, so this is going to start making guys by the time they're dying, so that should be fine. This gains them 2 life, but they're conveniently on 18. So that's fine for us. Sejiri Steppe helps us get through a Thought Monitor if that's what they have. We haven't even shown them our Null Rod technology yet, so pretty good. And trying to nail our Pithing Needle here. That's acceptable. You can make some as a side construct. It's not going to get you where you need to go. 4 cards on our opponent's hand. That's quite a lot. One of them is also a draw 2. Okay, a Thought Monitor. Okay, so we have this covered with our Sejiri Steppe, so we can just allow this one and just swing right through it. As long as we don't pass right through our opponent's end step. Our opponent doesn't have the mana for something like an Otawara. So we actually have 2 answers to what our opponent's doing here. Let's go our creature protection for blue. Alright. Pretty good. And we still have all of our nonsense to bring out as well. So do we want to have Lotus Petals on the play? Oh, sorry, on the draw. I don't think so. I don't think that's what I'm about. Although some of our hand disruption gets a lot worse. Like these Thoughtseize, the Inquisitions can hit a decent chunk of stuff. Maybe don't want these. And we want 3 petals just to help grease the wheels a little bit and try and get these like Null Rod effects out on the draw. Okay. Like we'll keep this hand. It's got our combo. It's also got a turn 2 Null Rod, which I don't think our opponent will enjoy. I'd love to find a piece of fast mana and just pump them out a little bit quicker. An Emery, sure. I don't want this to find anything too exciting. Mox Opal and Thought Monitor. Okay, these are somewhat exciting. And they've already got the Bauble, so they can keep looping that. Yeah, it'd be a great turn to draw a bit of fast mana. Did not draw a bit of fast mana. We don't have any hand disruption here either. So we're just playing out the Urborg. And then next turn we jam the Null Rod and hope that that's enough to keep us alive. We're going to be drawing a bunch of cards. A Grindstone. Okay. We do not want our opponent to Force of Will us next turn. Right, there is a Painted Servant. This hand is pretty nice. If they've got a Force of Will blue card to go with what they've got here, then this hand was just pretty much unbeatable. Why do they want this Lotus Petal? I guess that's their 3rd mana for Grindstone. They could get it next turn. They could have got an extra card. I don't know, suspicious behaviour. They might have a Hydroblast. No, they can't because they've named black, right? Okay. Here goes nothing. Is this Null Rod any good? Yeah. That hand was unbeatable. Turn 1 Emery, turn 2 Painted Grindstone with Force of Will backup. Like, nothing I can do about that one. Yeah, I'm normally pretty happy to play into these sort of painted decks, but that was brutal. Alright, a pretty dismal one there. 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, 2-0. So, you know, all the rounds we lost were 1-2s, and we're kind of on the cusp. Like, there was the Food Chain deck where we just couldn't find one of our 4 Abrupt Decays in half our deck. The 2 Bant matchups, or, you know, Bant-centric matchups, kind of feel that we did alright just to get the 1 win there. Those matchups are horrible. We can write them off. That Painter matchup, like, our opponent just had the absolute nuts on that last one, and our hand... We kind of demonstrated why I'm not happy to keep hands that can't do the thing within the hand, and we could have mulliganed there. But yeah, not a good run today. So let's talk about the deck. So yeah, things just didn't really go great for us today. Now, the format is shifting a little bit, but I still like where we're positioned. Like, we did have to mulligan very heavily. This is one of these decks where if you keep a 7-card hand, your chance of winning are very high. But... we did have to mulligan a lot. Maybe we can try and fiddle with some of our little slots here. So, like, some of these discard slots, maybe we can fiddle with them a little bit more to help some matchups. Obviously, we did get 2 uncommon and very bad matchups. Like, pretty much back-to-back, I think it was. So that's not necessarily on us, because we have just said, you know, this deck, we can sometimes beat that if we go underneath it, but we're not trying to board in a load of extra stuff to beat it. It's just one of these things that's going to get us. And we didn't really get to test the Leylines versus, you know, some of the reanimator decks today. It's something I wanted. I think I'm going to try something a little bit more outlandish with this build soon and try some other things. So I think maybe trying trimming these discard spells in favor of some Elvish Reclaimers just more tutors. So we have 11 tutors, and the thing about Elvish Reclaimer is if it just sits there doing its thing, then that is good enough because it can find you both halves of the combo. It can be multiple tutors if it survives. So maybe even trim one Pithing Needle and just stick 4 Reclaimers in here and see how that feels. Try something a little bit different, mix it up a bit, see if we can shake something loose, because we've had a few bad runs here. Like, it was like 6-7 weeks ago, something like that. We got a trophy maybe 8 weeks ago now. What is time, right? But like we trophied with a list almost identical to this, and then now we're sort of I think this time and the last time we played it, we had some pretty bad runs. So maybe we'll sort of shake things up or try some rainbow. Like, I still like the deck and how it's positioned. It's just sometimes things are going to fall badly for us. I would rather play against other matchups than the one we did today, but such is life. We also don't get to play Mega Sloth, which is something that I recently wrote an article on my Patreon about, with like 5 different builds of like Mega Sloth decks with like Dark Depths, because that's an interesting thing that you can be doing. So that's something that I would recommend looking at if you're interested. Obviously, it's a bit of a shameless plug from me, and I do appreciate all the support, but it's by no means necessary. I just appreciate it if you find yourself wanting some more Dark Depths content to come to me. All right, bit of a downer on this one, but not every league is going to be a success, and there's definitely things you can learn from it and experiment with, and we're going to have a little bit more experimental fun with what we've got going on here next time around, rather than just sort of playing the stock list. We're gonna see if maybe we need some more tutors, so we have slightly more keepable hands, so mulliganing less, because the mulliganing is quite brutal in the format at the moment. So if we can make our hands more reliable at doing our thing rather than trying to protect doing our thing, maybe that's the way to go. So maybe 4 more repeatable tutors is good, although obviously we don't provide many creatures for our opponents to kill, so we are just saying here's a good target for these lightning bolts that were bad. But if it sticks, it is very powerful, so we'll give a go with some Reclaimers and stuff. And I've also got a donation deck to do, which is a quite different take on Turbodepths that I hope you'll all enjoy too. Alright, remember to like and subscribe, it really helps the channel. And thank you so much for watching. Goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget Turbodepths, as well as 3 tiers of support. A low-cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed Turbodepths guide that is updated every month, as well as regular articles, and lastly, the higher tier gives you all of the above, as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.